President of the United States, Donald Trump, has been making a clear and deliberate effort to distract the public from the ongoing controversy involving Jeffrey Epstein. He wants the focus to shift away from the cover-up allegations and convince people it's not important, that it doesn't really matter. Can't we all just move on? That's the message he's trying to send. But despite those efforts, Pam Bandy has just made things significantly more difficult for him. She's released a court document that directly contradicts Trump's claims about Epstein, blowing a hole in his entire defense. And we're about to get into exactly what that document says. But before we dive in, just a quick request. If you find this video informative, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Your support makes a big difference in helping us keep going. Now, before we reveal this bombshell that's unraveling Trump's Epstein narrative,
they believe that the story in the Wall Street Journal about the birthday greeting that Donald Trump, the salacious birthday greeting that Donald Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein in 2003 on the occasion of his 50th birthday was a leak from the Maxwell family. And in the White House, they regarded this as, quote, a shot across the bow. So a threat, you know, if that Ghislaine had damaging material on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's lawyer, who, as it happens, is also the number 2 in the United States Justice Department, but principally is Donald Trump's own lawyer, went down, and I expect to try to figure out exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell has, and then they would figure out how they might have to handle that.
Let's start with some recent reporting by Michael Wolff, Trump's biographer. According to Wolff, there is growing panic inside Trump's White House, a panic that's fueling this entire crisis. If that's true, it might explain why Trump chose to send someone who practically acts as his personal attorney to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, instead of a higher official like the Deputy Attorney General or Todd Blanche. Many have pointed out, and rightfully so, that if Trump was really trying to hide something, his team wouldn't have gone anywhere near Maxwell. Meeting with her only invites more questions. So clearly, this wasn't an attempt to bury the story. The real reason: Trump knows Maxwell still holds dangerous information about him, and we're beginning to see that information emerge. Still, Trump doesn't want the public to believe any of it. He continues to push the idea that this is a hoax, a setup by Democrats that no one should care about.
Bags full of Russiagate documents.
A burn bag. I thought you said appointed a man named Burn Bag. Go ahead. You got to speak up.
Thousands of documents in these bags, supposedly burn bags at the FBI in the secret room.
Well, I want everything to be shown. You know, as long as it's fair and reasonable, I think it will be shown and it should be shown. And I think he feels that way, and I think Pam feels that way. But it's got to be, it's got to be stuff that really doesn't hurt people unfairly, because you have so many people involved. And if they can do that in a fair way, I think it's great. I think it's really great. The whole thing is a scam. It's a scam set up by the Democrats, and they love talking about it. But I would like to see people exposed that might be bad, and we'll see how that all works out. But it's getting to be very old news. You know, if they had anything, they would have done it the week before the election, because they were losing by a lot. If they had anything, they would have done it. They controlled the file. The Democrats controlled it. Comey and all this, sleazebags, every one of them that you read about all the time. And I guess they've got some problems now having to do with yet a different scandal, very big one. But they control that file. So I would think that if they would have had something in the file, they would have released it about a week before the election, maybe 2 weeks, right, Brian?
Trump's current talking point? That this is all old news. He claims there's no need to dwell on it, it doesn't matter. Just move on. But again, Pam Bandy isn't letting that slide. In a late-night filing, the Department of Justice, represented by Bandy and Todd Blanche, asked a Manhattan court to unseal grand jury transcripts from the Epstein case. They stated clearly that the Trump administration had actively tried to suppress this investigation. The memo, dated July 6, 2025, highlights the public's undeniable interest in the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Despite Trump's repeated claims that the case is a Democratic hoax, Bandy affirms that Americans have every right to know the full scope of this investigation. The DOJ document further confirms that all but one of the victims have been contacted, and steps are being taken to preserve their anonymity when the transcripts are made public. This document was signed by Bandy, Blanche, and Jay Clayton, all of whom were nominated by Trump himself for top positions, including U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Bandy, who has faced intense criticism from Trump's base and even clashed with FBI Director Dan Bongino, has taken a firm stand here. She is refusing to let this be swept under the rug. In short, Pam Bandy is shattering Trump's narrative, the idea that this case is irrelevant, fabricated, or politically driven. She's making it clear that this is in the public interest, and the American people do care. Trump wants the world to believe that this is just another ridiculous email hoax created by Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton. But his attempts to push that narrative are falling apart, especially with each new statement he makes. The more he talks, the more damaging it gets. As Chris Hayes recently noted, Trump's latest admissions might be the final nail in the coffin.
Chris Hayes, now there are a lot of reasons that this Epstein scandal is not going away for Donald Trump. One of them is this: he and his administration keep behaving every day like they have something to hide. I mean, Trump himself cannot keep his story straight about Jeffrey Epstein. And the more he talks about it, the worse it seems to get. In his attempt to spin another version of how he broke up with the late child sex trafficker, Donald Trump said something truly disturbing about one of Epstein's victims.
That's such old history, very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that work for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
So that was Trump yesterday at his Scotland golf resort, which, by the way, he's promoting flying there on the taxpayer dime, saying he stole people that worked for me. Did he really mean that? Today we learned the answer was yes.
People were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told them, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
That was audio that we got from Air Force One. We had only the audio. Spa or not spa, don't take my people. So Donald Trump now says that he ejected the world's most notorious trafficker and abuser of minor women and girls from his life because the guy kept stealing his spa workers. You split up the friendship 15 years because he was grooming and recruiting your staff to go abuse them, but you didn't do anything about it? It's a very strange thing to say. It's also a narrative that, like so much with Trump, has just this little kernel of truth buried inside it.
Virginia Roberts was working in the spa at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach when British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell introduced her to multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein.
The training started immediately. I mean, it was everything down to how to give a blowjob, how to be quiet, be subservient, give Jeffrey what he wants.
That woman, who later changed her name to Virginia Giuffre, was 16 when she was indeed recruited from Mar-a-Lago by Maxwell, not Epstein. And after breaking free of Epstein, she became a really outspoken advocate for her fellow victims. She led them in multiple lawsuits. Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year. So was she who Trump was talking about?
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
Yep, he stole her. Definitely the worst thing that Jeffrey Epstein did was hire someone away from Donald Trump. That is Donald Trump referring to the teenage sexual assault victim recruited from his club by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He stole her. And so that's why the two men stopped hanging out. Well, actually, probably not, since we've got actual timestamps on all this. Virginia Giuffre left Mar-a-Lago with Ghislaine Maxwell in the year 2000. Trump was still socializing with Epstein long after that. In fact, it was just 2 years later, after Giuffre was recruited out of the spa, when Trump told New York Magazine in 2002 that Jeff is a, quote, terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. It was 3 years later in 2003 that Trump would reportedly send a birthday letter scribbled inside the hand-drawn outline of a naked woman, a letter that said, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never age. May every day be another wonderful secret." It's just Trump constantly shifting between multiple accounts that don't add up. I mean, remember this, okay? In Trump's first term, it was widely reported that Epstein and the future president fell in 2004 after they ended up in a bidding war over an oceanfront Palm Beach mansion. Back then, Trump was also insisting Epstein had never been a member of Mar-a-Lago. But then journalists from the Miami Herald and Wall Street Journal reviewed a club registry showing, Epstein had in fact been a Mar-a-Lago member all the way until October 2007, long after he was already under federal and local investigation for sex crimes. In fact, multiple club members told reporters that Trump severed ties with Epstein after the disgraced financier hit on the teenage daughter of a Mar-a-Lago member, threatening the Trump brand of glitz and glamour. So after that report, Trump changed his story, started telling people, yeah, he was a member and I did throw Epstein out of his club. But he never went into the reasons for their falling out. Until today. Still doesn't add up. Any more than the previous stories he's told. All of which he grafted onto the back of this news story yesterday.
It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum.
One of the most disturbing parts of this entire story is the situation involving Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims. Trump wasn't angry about the abuse she suffered. He was apparently just upset that someone he viewed as his worker was taken away. That kind of thinking reveals everything about Trump's mindset. It shows us exactly what game he's playing. We'll continue covering this topic and keeping the spotlight on the truth. If you support that mission, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and if you made it to the end, leave a blue heart in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.